When you play the Game of Thrones, you
subscribe and like,
or you die. There is no middle ground.
Alright, hello YouTube, and welcome back to the Grease Comics YouTube channel, and today we're going to be doing a revisited Where Do I Think Aegon Targaryen / Blackfyre is going to be going in Winds of Winter / Dream of Spring, if he makes it that far. Now, before we get into the video, if you guys like to like, subscribe, and comment, please do. It helps the channel grow and reach our people that might like this content as well. But let's get into the video. So Aegon right now is apparently has taken Storm's End with Jon Con doing some sort of guile. Now, I'm assuming one of the first few chapters we're going to learn how he did this. Now, there are a ton of theories revolving how did they take Storm's End. There's mine that I like is that Edric Storm, this is where we see him re-enter into the story. Right, I think somehow Jon Con might have found him or done something along those lines and uses Edric Storm to possibly gain entry to this castle. We know a lot of the people from Storm's End would still be loyal to Edric Storm and like him. If we go back to when Storm's End was first being sieged by Stannis, they were very reluctant to give up the castle. And if we also look at who is in charge, right, the person that Stannis has in charge will probably not give up the castle, but say he was to die, the second in command is the same second in command the first time when Stannis took the castle, who gave it up easily, because he was only like 20, I believe, somewhere around there. So I think what's going to end up happening is possibly we get a mixture of things going on. Maybe someone sneaks into the castle, like something Davos would do, and then kills the person in charge, and then the second in command, seeing that Edric Storm is as well being, into the possession of Jon Con, decides, okay, we'll surrender the castle, and that is how they take Storm's End, more or less without any loss of troops. Also, I like the theory that more or less Jon Con could dress up some of his troops as guys that are Stannis' troops, kind of like a Trojan horse type thing, and then they open up the gates really quickly, and that's how they get in. So, in short, that is how I think Storm's End probably will get taken by Jon Con and Aegon. And talking about Aegon specifically before we get deeper into this video, I am one of those people that believe Aegon is a Blackfyre. I think if you want more evidence to this video, I would check out a lot of my Varys videos. I will have cards up like right now. If you guys wanted to check out those videos, I'll talk about more about his parentage. But in short, I believe he's a Blackfyre. If we look at all the hints around Aegon and Illyrio as well, why would Illyrio and Varys be so fixed in on this kid? I just don't believe he's a Targaryen, right? I just don't believe it. And I think if there was some personal connection to Aegon, it would make a lot more sense. Because here's the thing. Varys is not someone that's been completely just, oh, we're for the Targaryens, right? With Dany, Illyrio and Varys have done some very questionable things with Dany and Viserys, as well as when you even go back even further with Varys, right? He outright basically betrays Rhaegar, who would have been a far better king and was still a Targaryen. So I think if you look at it from that way, it doesn't make sense either. I think there has to be some sort of personal motive. And we know consistently, they tell us, or George tells us, that the male line of the Blackfyres died. There's never anything about the female line. So what I believe happened is that Illyrio's wife was a Blackfyre on the woman's line, and their child was Aegon. They then get Jon Con to look over Aegon and raise him and all that stuff, and try to fool the kingdoms into believing that he is Aegon Targaryen, Rhaegar's second child and first son. So, with all that being said, it makes a lot more sense why Illyrio and Varys would personally be wanting him to rule compared to other people. Now, you could also make the argument that, Varys just wants to help him because he would be the best to rule. But again, if you look at Varys' history, he's betrayed so many, peaceful regimes and stuff like that. Like, if you look at where Tommen would be right now in the current story with Kevin Lannister looking over him, I think we'd be in pretty relative peace. I don't think there's many people that can oppose Tommen, and I think Tommen with good counselors like Kevin Lannister would be a pretty good regime. So, personally, Varys, if you look at a lot of his motives, they don't really add up, and I think Aegon would be his big plan. Now, getting back into the predictions, what do I think is going to happen? I think Aegon is going to marry Arianne Martell. I think Arianne will kind of try to seduce him, and as well as I think Aegon will see the value of having the Dornish involved. And also it makes sense from the standpoint of, if you're going to try to sell that Aegon is the real Targaryen and he is Rhaegar's real, son, it would make sense that the Dornish would support Rhaegar, or not Rhaegar, Aegon, based upon Elia being Aegon's mother in this scenario, if it's true, whatever. So it makes sense for me in that regard. I could see very low chance, but possible, that Littlefinger tries to gain favor with Aegon and tries to maybe make a match with Sansa or something like that. But again, I don't think it's going to happen, just based upon Varys knowing Littlefinger and will have probably a lot of say in that regard. But for me, what I think is going to end up happening is I think Aegon, after they take Storm's End, all the Dornish forces kind of get together. I think they march on King's Landing, and I think King's Landing falls. I think a lot of the major Lannisters die. I think maybe even some of the Tyrells, and I don't think that's because maybe of Aegon. I think maybe Cersei sees the siege and just starts going Mad Queen and just starts lighting wildfire and stuff like that. And maybe that, kills some of the Tyrells and stuff like that. I personally believe most of the Tyrells are going to be dead by the end of the story. And I think this is going to be kind of why. But I do believe Aegon is going to come into King's Landing. He's going to take the city. And I think we're going to see him heralded as kind of a hero, right? I think he's going to be kind of what Dany was to a lot of the slave cities. I think that's what Aegon's going to be, because when you look at how many bad rulers they've had now in the past, and I think Aegon comes in freeing them from Cersei, I think the crowd will love him, and I think that is going to be a major thing that's going to play out into Daenerys when she comes over. Because Daenerys coming over, I think Aegon will already have taken the throne, and I think it's going to be an interesting type of thing George is going to do with Dany. I am not saying Dany is going to go crazy or mad. I have kind of started to actually not like that theory. I used to be a really big believer in the Mad Queen thing, but I think it makes more sense to just give Dany some things that would make her maybe more of a morally gray character. Not a bad character, but not a good character. Kind of like a Tyrion type, where she's dealing with a lot of stress and a lot of anxiety and all this stuff, where people are looking at her like a villain when she invades Westeros, just based upon the fact that she's bringing over a lot of foreign armies and stuff like that. And maybe Dany just makes some bad choices, but they're for good intent. And I think that's what's going to happen with Dany. I think Dany does end up coming over, and I think the timing is what gets very interesting. At what point will the others start their invasion? I think by the end of the first, or not the first book, end of Winds of Winter, we could see that the others break through the wall, or somehow they get through the wall, whether that being with the Horn of Winter or some other way. We see them getting through, and I think that is going to be the end of Winds. Now, I think the ends of Winds is going to be, for Aegon's going to be, okay, he's at King's Landing and he's on the throne. And then for Dany, I think it's going to be her basically stepping into Dragonstone. So I think that last book, you're going to have to work out all of these southern politics. So I think what's going to happen is I think Daenerys ends up defeating Aegon. And I think Aegon dies. I think a lot of the Dornish die. I think almost all of the Martell family dies out. Jon Conn's going to probably be dead. Aegon's probably going to be dead. And I think Dany is going to take the throne, but at the same time, I think she's going to make some morally gray decisions to where when the war is done with the others, I think we're going to have a conversation where, is Dany the right ruler, or Dany may get sacrificed? So in short, where I think Aegon is going to end is I think Aegon is going to end up dying to Dany when she comes over. I think he's going to hold the throne for a little while, but not too long, not enough to really have a good reign. It maybe a couple months at tops. So that is going to be the video. I know it was pretty short, but I didn't really have a lot to talk about. I mean, with Aegon and where I think his plot's going to go, I think it's going to be pretty straightforward. I think it's just going to be in the details that's going to make Aegon's story really interesting. Maybe Cersei and the Lannisters with the Tyrells can defeat Aegon. I don't think it's going to happen because I don't feel like it makes sense from George's point of view to bring in Aegon just to have him lose instantly. But yeah, so thank you guys all for watching this video. I hope you guys like this video, and thank you guys for all the support as always, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye, guys.
If you think this has a happy ending, you haven't been paying attention.